Today, the pregnant pause, how you can control your future by being aware of your present. Welcome to Sacred Grit, a podcast equipping men to conquer addiction and overcome inner struggles through physical, mental, and spiritual disciplines so you can become a man of honor and integrity. I'm Jason.lyle. Now let's get to work. Today you'll learn each moment you enter is unfinished. What you do with that moment matters, and the man you become is shaped by your choices. This episode is brought to you by Chuck Swenson. What's up, my dude? Welcome back to the Sacred Grit podcast and Sacred Sunday. Happy New Year to you, my friend. I hope that you are starting out this year thinking about the best decisions that you can make back toward yourself. Strangely enough, that's what today's podcast topic is, making decisions back toward yourself. So in a loving way. I think along with New Year and, as we talked about in the last episodes, revolution and not resolution, we have to address this idea of relapse. Because one thing is for sure, man, when you decide that you're not going to do something, that joker comes knocking on your door that much harder. Or as one of my sponsors used to say, my addiction's always in the driveway doing push-ups, right? It's like that thing's getting stronger and stronger. It makes me think about a verse in the Bible, and I can't remember exactly where it is, but Jesus says something along the lines of, when you sweep out your house, you get it all nice and tidied up, the demons come back with friends, So in other words, he was saying, you can do all this cleaning up on the inside, but you have to beware because double the friends are coming back to try to infiltrate the insides again. And that's really kind of a human truth, right? It's like, man, the more that I try to make my life better, the more resistance that I meet. But here's what I find to be the truth about that. The majority of that resistance is my own doing, right? It's my own ability to choose. I think about in Genesis, the first few chapters of Genesis, there's this creation story, and I'm pretty sure you're aware of it. In the beginning, it says, God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God separated the light from the darkness, and the light he called day, and the darkness he called night. And, for so many years, we were taught that was literally the day and the night, but the sun, moon, and the stars don't appear until days later. So the Jews, who actually that book was written for, say that is when God, the first thing that God did when God started creating was give choice, right? And you can choose to the positive or to the negative. You can choose light or you can choose dark. And Jesus seems to carry this theme along with him as well, right? Well, we've talked about the Nicodemus story before, Jesus saying, if you really want to see the kingdom of heaven, you must be born again. That seems to be a choice that Jesus is talking about, right? Like you can step into each moment as if you've never seen that moment before, and you can choose how you're going to live. Are you going to live in light of the kingdom of heaven, or are you going to live in the darkness of what you continue to believe to be real? Because that's really what addiction is, my dude. And not only addiction, I think it goes to depression and anxiety, anger, all these different things that men deal with. Is it's really a belief thing, right? It's like we believe that the story of the darkness is true. So we might believe the narrative in our head of, well, I'm just a piece of shit, or I'm never going to be any other way than this, or, God's cursed me, or you name it, man, 900 different things. And all those things really just come down to excuses. But I don't want to discount the fact that when we start trying to think in the other direction, right, we start to meet resistance. And that's what causes relapse, is the resistance. So I just want to talk for a minute here before we step fully into our new year. This is the Sunday before the Monday when I think everybody will be kind of kicking life back off, is how that we can control relapse, okay? So the first thing I want us to talk about when we think about controlling relapse is this, and that is each moment that you enter into is unfinished. So every moment that you take a breath, Every moment that unfolds in front of you is an unfinished moment. It's like a blank slate or a canvas. And that moment, as it unfolds in front of you, is blank in as far as you allow it to be. So let me tell you what I mean by that. Our brain naturally wants to remember the past, right? So that it can project it upon the future so they can try to keep you alive, right? So it's remembering all these events of your past, and it's computing those, and it's starting to build an algorithm to project the most probable outcome. But here's the problem. That probable outcome may or may not be true. But in the manner that we receive information nowadays through our phone and through, YouTube videos and social media and all these different things, our brain overcomputes. I think that's the reason why we see so much rise in addiction is our brain is overcomputing. Now, it's a beautiful thing that our brain does this because that's what keeps us alive. But here's what starts to happen is if we start believing that what the brain is telling us is actual truth, we're making our next decision based off of automatic behavior. That's the idea. I say this quite often. If you keep doing what you always did, you keep getting what you always got. Well, the brain is kind of keeping you stuck in that. You keep doing what you always did, right? That this always happens. And those are some pretty key words that you can follow, right? This always happens. This never happens. I always do this. I am this. I am that. Those words kind of can give you a key that you're following the brain's thinking patterns, right? Instead of taking a moment and going, wait a minute, maybe this can be a different way. So that's the first thing I want you to think about. Each moment is unfinished, right? That doesn't mean that it has to be the way that it was before unless you choose for it to be. Now, the second thing I want you to think about is what you do with that moment matters. Because here's the thing. If you step into that moment with those pre-wired predispositions and you're not aware of what you're about to do at that moment, as I just said a minute ago, you'll keep getting what you always got because you're going to keep doing what you always did. Now, if we do that, we're on autopilot. And you've heard me talk about myelination and the process of addiction and behaviors getting down into your autonomic nervous system. We talk about that all the time. So when you do that, you're reinforcing those same habits. But when you stop for just a second and realize that moment is unfinished and that what you're about to do in that moment matters, you start to gain control over your overall life. Okay? That is because the third thing is the man you become is shaped by your choices. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit more on Gritty Wednesday and give you a tool to start using to be able to pause for just a minute. But I want you to understand more than anything else right now in this moment is that rebirth, and I like using that word because Jesus used it. Rebirth into a moment means that I step into that moment as if I've never seen it before. It does not mean that I can turn my thinking brain off. I wouldn't want to. My thinking brain keeps me alive. It helps me plan. It helps me plan for my future and plan for, my career and all these different things. My thinking brain is beautiful. But what I can do is step into a moment going, maybe there's more to this moment than just what my thinking brain can see, right? Maybe there's more in this moment. Maybe I can stop for just a second and grab this moment and be able to ask myself the question, is there more here than meets the eye? Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit more once again on Wednesday, but right now, I just want you to think about what your choices are and how they paint your future. And this goes all the way down to the tiniest of things. I think men believe that we have to make like the big decision, like I'm never going to drink again. And, that may be true, but sometimes that feels daunting, right? So maybe you would just think, and my partner said this yesterday. She said, when I first started getting sober, I would say, I'm just going to go to bed sober today. That is a great goal, right? Not that I'm never going to do this thing again, but I'm just going to go to bed sober today. So we could break these choices down even further than that and go, well, I'm just going to stay sober this next minute. And you could transfer that over to whatever it is that you are doing with your life, whatever you're trying to stop. Maybe you're trying to stop anger. Well, I'm just going to not be angry this moment. Maybe you're trying to Get control of your diet. I'm just not going to eat these unhealthy things in this moment. Maybe you're trying to start a new exercise regimen. I'm going to make sure that I go to the gym today. Maybe you just break these things down into these small pieces so that as you make each decision as you go along, you can start to see those decisions compile on top of one another until the next thing you know, you see this beautiful thing that you call your life, and you start building the life that you have always wanted. Man, we live in a get it now society, right? I mean, take a pill, do the thing, get rich quick, lose weight fast, you name it. We live in a society that makes, makes all of these promises. But the truth is, my dude, nothing long and lasting happens in the blink of an eye. It happens with long, sustained work of making the right choice over and over and over. And that, my friend, is sacred grit. So check it out. Today, you learned that each moment you enter is unfinished, that what you do with that moment matters, and the man you become is shaped by your choices. My dude, thank you for listening. I appreciate you doing so. If you drop down into the show notes, you can click on my Calendly link. I coach folks for spiritual direction and also for addiction. If you click on that, you can have a free consultation call. Would love to hear from you and see if we can match up with one another. And would love to work with you. Our closing sponsor today is Capital City Roofing. Now, capitalcityroofing.net is how you can get a hold of these guys for all of your exterior finish needs. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, you name it, they do it. And Brad and the guys there are some awesome guys. You want to look them up once again at capitalcityroofing.net. All right, my dude, I will see you on Gritty Wednesday.